It's important to know that the concepts and the training in this course are supported by science. And the science that tracks and trains focus is brainwaves. There are 5 brainwave frequencies. The highest frequency is gamma, and then beta, and then alpha, and then theta, and then delta. And gamma up at the top is a very interesting brainwave frequency. It's where ESP would be, or aha experiences are. When your brainwaves are dominated by gamma, actually it is the only brainwave frequency where all parts of your brain are turned on at the same time. All the other brainwave frequencies, when they are dominant, some parts of your brain quiet down or even shut down. The next brainwave frequency lower is the beta brainwave frequency. And there's 3 different parts to the brainwave frequency of beta, and it's important to know the difference between those 3. High beta is emotion, and at the very highest part of beta is fight, flight, or freeze. It is the panic spot. It's where you are completely consumed by emotions, and there is no ration, there's no logic, there's no calm, there's no peace. Mid-beta is where thoughts happen. That's where you're doing your studying, or you're doing your reason or logical analysis of problems. Low beta is where focus is, and this is a useful spot for athletes. We want to remember that low beta is one of the important spots as far as performance goes. The next frequency down is alpha, and alpha is the frequency of calm and relaxation and meditation, but it's also the frequency of presence. The next one down is theta, and theta is the border of subconscious and conscious. So when you're in the alpha frequency, you are conscious. When you're in the theta frequency, you're usually in the subconscious, but you can be conscious there. Some meditators have trained to be able to access that theta frequency. And the lowest frequency is delta, and that's where deep, dreamless sleep happens. It's also important to remember for athletes that delta is where healing for the body occurs. So making sure that you're getting enough deep, dreamless sleep so your body can heal itself is what's important about delta. Now, does it matter that if you memorize each of the brainwave frequencies? No. But can it be helpful to you if you understand the feelings that are equated with each of the frequencies? Absolutely. If you are too high up in beta and you can recognize that, you're going to get tools in this course that can help you drop back down to low beta and into alpha. So being able to recognize the things that you would feel in certain brainwave frequencies and know how to reset from those back to the optimum frequency, really important. And speaking of the optimum frequency, one of the things that has been discovered about athletes is that they are very good, especially the high-level athletes, at moving fluidly from alpha, which is the state of presence and the state of calm, to low beta, which is the state of focus. So if you're moving through that focus progression of presence to sensory to tuned in positive focus on your cues and targets, that is going to be alpha to low beta. So that's the window, that's the sweet spot that we're training throughout the course. If you get too far up into beta, you get more distracted. And a good image of that would be when you think of the brain waves, think of a surface of water. The lower the brain waves, the calmer the surface of the water is. The higher the brainwave frequency, the more distracted or the more ripples there are on the water. So when you start going up into beta with thoughts and emotions, the surface of the water is getting lots of little tiny waves on it, and those are just distractions. So when your base frequency is alpha, the surface of the lake is very calm. So that's a good visual image to remember the difference between alpha, low beta, and then moving up in beta. Now, there are some interesting things with brainwaves too. The specific spot for the zone, and this is highly researched. There's been a ton of research in the last 30 years or so on the scientific specifics of the zone or the flow state, that sweet spot for peak performance. It is actually lower than you'd think. It is on the border of alpha and theta. It's roughly 8,000 hertz. So when we're looking at the range for athletic performance, it's going to be from about 7,800 hertz to around 12,000 hertz. And that's a pretty specific window. Gamma goes from 30 up to 130 or 100,000 hertz. So knowing the windows and knowing what those windows feel like is more important than understanding all the science behind it. But when you're training, if you're able to recognize, oh yes, I'm calm, that means my alpha waves are dominating my brain waves, or oh, I'm very focused, that means I've moved up a little bit closer to low beta. Or if you're in the zone where things start to feel almost unconscious, there's a reason for that. The lower your brainwave frequency, the lower you're getting to unconscious, and when you're performing in the zone, it is almost an unconscious state where things are just happening and you're not controlling it. So the big picture of brainwaves is pretty simple. There is a sweet spot, and when you're in that sweet spot, if you can move fluidly from the calm state of presence to focus and back and forth, you're going to be way ahead of the game. And that is what we're training in this course. If you enjoy the science side of focus, there are tools available that are very convenient and they're very accurate that you can train your brain waves real time. I've actually worked with a number of my athletes with a brainwave tracking band that they can wear while they're golfing, or you can wear while you're meditating, and you can see your brain waves and you can track them whether you want to use a phone or a computer. So super convenient methods for tracking and training your brain waves using EEG monitoring tools. Now, if you have any questions about these or would like to figure out how could that maybe help your training program, please feel free to give me a shout. I'd be happy to chat with you and cut down the amount of research that you have to do. So if you're interested in the science side and you think it would be fun to have an EEG tracking tool that you can use at home, and some of them you can actually play games to train your brain waves in order to get there a little bit faster, because as athletes, games are always better than just dry research tools. But the big picture, if you're curious about all these wonderful new EEG tracking and training tools, feel free to touch base with me anytime.